The lesson.
Oh yeah.
You were working with Obese at some stage, like in
Yep. I was working at Obese in the shop.
Yeah.
And then I got changed to Obese, had a couple of E's on there. And then around Peg's time was working in the office as well. Doing the distro and sending out all the CDs.
And you obviously had, and I imagine you still do, like good relationships with all the LC boys.
Yep.
And then when I think of, classic Aussie rap beefs, Obese and Unkut is the one that comes to mind. But it's interesting, I guess, for yourself, where if you were cool with both camps, did you find yourself kind of wedged in the middle of that? Was that like an awkward...
There was definitely moments of it where people were sort of, you're either on our team or their team. But I'm like, I was here before and I'll be here after. I'm just sitting on the fence. It's not my beef. You got your own shit going on. It's got nothing to do with me. But at the time, I guess I grew up with Strut Trem, like going to Big Bamboo, rapping with them probably around 93, 94. So, I've always got a soft spot in my heart. But as the thing happened, I guess they segregated from me a little bit. Everything's cool now, but they were sort of, we're doing our shit. We hate whack rap. You do your shit. But it wasn't a diss to me. It was more people that were around me at the time. But, I had a kid to feed and I wanted to do my job and I wanted to work at Obese and that's how it was. So I stayed. And Strut used to work in the shop as well. So when Pegs took over and they had a bit of a falling out and Strut left, so, that was all, it all sort of built from all of it.
And then, amongst all that is where Monopoly came from, the track from Strut. I guess, looking back at that now, and I can't remember off the top of my head how long ago that was, but, you're probably talking like...
2000 somewhere.
Yeah, so you're talking 10 years.
Yeah.
Now, when you think back to that time, how epic do you feel that song, when it dropped, like how much of a wow thing was it? And did you know it was going to come out before it came out?
A lot of people have different feelings of Brad. I grew up with him, like I've known him since a long time. I know the real good side of Brad, so I always had a lot of love for Brad. And I sort of didn't want to hear it when it came out. It was like, I don't want to get involved in this beef. And I'd heard it and he had the film clip and I liked the song, but I didn't really pay that much attention to it, as though I don't want to be dragged into it. It's like beef, as soon as you have an opinion on it, you speak about it, you're a part of that beef, so you best keep your mouth shut. So that's sort of how it is. But I saw Strut a couple of months ago on that, we talk about old days and, we apologise for anything you might have said or done at different times and everything's cool. Yeah, but they just, Brad was a very passionate dude. He was the first dude to go, fuck you American accent rappers. Before that, we're all together, it didn't matter, just rapping. Brad's like, nah, these cunts are whack. That's the way he'd say it. Diss them, they'll be taken out. And anyone he thought was whack, he'd just take it to the mic, because that's what he grew up on, that's the love, his passion for the music. So he was always at the front of all this beef and that was Bradley.
And then, so what do you think of the song, I guess now, looking back on it 10 plus years later, as in terms of, diss tracks in Australia?
Yeah, well, I can see how it affect them, you're trying to get your music out there and someone's got the monopoly on it, being Pegs that, he was doing so well at the time. And besides that, it was Shogun distro, but no one could do really as well as what Obese were doing. They had the JB hookup. And, they'd buy 2,000 CDs up front, pre-sold before your shit came out. So it was a really good thing for us at the time because it was a segregation, that was upsetting to them. But at the same time, I think it made good music for them to, be in that position or feel that hate or whatever it was. But they were just, they were battle rappers, that's what it was. They were about battling. That was the hunger and the anger inside of them, I guess. But yeah, I try to stay away from such things. Not my problem. And
then, you mentioned how Strut really wasn't down with Aussie dudes using the American accent. And I do remember, there was a time period where there was, a bit of that going on. For me, Weapon X and Ken Hell is the first name that springs to mind. I guess, what was your take on it then? And what's your take on it now, if it's any different?
Well, starting off when I started rapping, American accent, that's all you heard. There wasn't really Aussie stuff to go on. There was some AKA brothers and stuff like that, but I wasn't really listening to it when it first came out. So I think it might have been one of the first times I got on the mic, and it might have been like Ransom or Pac or Reason or someone that said, your raps are really good, but sound more like you don't need to sound that way. I was like, all right. So understood. So we started forging this sound, this, ochre, if people want to call it that. It was just us being us. And then, dudes are coming along people who had the American accent, no one was successful from it. And they go, well, that's where it comes from, that's where it's meant to sound. But we started building our little core thing, and we were getting all this following and other people weren't. But then Battletown came along. Weapon X was a nice bloke. And, Weapon X, Ken Hall and whoever else was in the crew. And they were going all the gigs, they were hungry, but they had that sound. So they became the target. And the whole beef thing started from there, just attacking those guys. There was a couple of fights, and I think Weapon X got smacked in the head with a mixer one day or something happened. But yeah, in the end, I think they just stopped. They just gave up and just realised it just wasn't working for them. They're actually good rappers. It was just the sound, and just, it was just that time that, it was just, no, we've got our own thing and we need to push what we're doing. We can't have a sound American, but like these days I hear people, and I'm not sure where their voices have come from, I'm not sure, it's sort of some in-between sound. And I never tried to sound over Aussie or anything, I just tried to rap the way I speak, and that's what most of us did. So they didn't speak that way, so why are you rapping that way? So that was sort of the whole philosophy behind it.
The lesson. 7. Oh yeah.